Hi folks, and welcome to this video. I wasn't intending to do this, but I've just released the package for the iXEG 737-300 and it's raised the perennial question of monitor resolution, aspect ratio, screen size. So I thought what I'd do is make a series of videos that just talk through building a panel. The biggest issue, the biggest feedback that I get from folks who've purchased our panels is that a panel looks garbage on their screen or that instruments aren't in the right place, and that boils down to screen resolution and aspect ratio. It's not anything that the user's done wrong. There's nothing wrong with my files. It's simply that they're trying to use a panel that's set up for a particular resolution on monitors of a different resolution. Now, there's so many different options and combinations of screens and monitors and whatever else out there. It would just be impossible to make a solution for every option. So I've just gone for what I use, 2560 by 1440 pixels. In fact, the situation's so bad that there are guys that make instruments for MSFS, for GA style aircraft, so much simpler cockpits, and those guys don't produce panels. They say, we're not going to produce panels, here are the instruments, you make the panels yourselves. And you can imagine if they've come up with issues because of this on what a very simple aircraft, what it boils down to when you come to Boeing's. But the solution is extremely simple. The solution is just make panels that fit your screens, your cockpit setup. And that's one of the beauties of Air Manager, that you can really customize this thing to the nth degree and come up with a solution with a cockpit, with a panel or a set of panels that do exactly what you the user want them to do. I'm going to start off nice and simple, and I'm just going to show you how to build a basic panel, so how to place instruments on the screen, size them, move them around, and then we can start to introduce scripting and really start to, I won't say make things more complicated, more complex is probably the way to put it. But the beauty of Air Manager is it uses Lua scripting, which is very logical, it's very simple, it's easy to understand, and once you understand it, you can just expand it to the really as little or as much as you want. I'm going to use the beta version of Air Manager 4.2. I think it's beta 31 they're at the moment. I'm going to use that because there are changes to the user interface, and I suspect that those changes to the user interface are going to work their way into the standard release versions from here on in. So I better keep up with the times, try and keep it as current as possible, and here we go. Okay, short break, welcome back. We now have Air Manager running. I made what may be a fatal mistake, but one of those silly mistakes one should never do when you're trying to show somebody something, in that I noticed when I launched Air Manager there was a new beta released, obviously overnight, so I've installed it. And I see now we're actually at beta 34, so it looks like I've skipped a version. Of course, the problem is that there may be some new features in there that I don't know about, so if I sound confused, it's probably because I am. I'll try and cut those bits out, but just be aware. First things first, what you're seeing on screen at the moment is Air Manager full screen. I actually have got X-Plane running. It's on another screen. Let me just whip it across here and take it back out of view. X-Plane 12 is running using the iXEG 737-300. My advice to you is, whenever you're doing anything in Air Manager, always have X-Plane running, always have the aircraft that you're working on as the aircraft running within X-Plane. When you come to panel scripting itself and you start using things like Air Manager variables, you've got to have X-Plane running. Now, I am of course just saying X-Plane because X-Plane is the simulator I use. I've no experience with Microsoft Flight Sim or P3D or anything like that, at least not when it comes to Air Manager. Some of what I'm saying here probably does work. In fact, most of it probably does work, because what I'm talking about in this video and subsequent ones relates to Air Manager and not really to the simulator that you're using to drive Air Manager. Right, enough chit chat, let's get on. We are going to create a panel. I'm not going to do a full panel, I'm just going to show you how to import and place instruments, and then that'll give you enough to go and make a panel using, in this instance, my IXEG instruments, but could be any of our other panels. In fact, it could be instruments made by anyone, and give you enough info to be able to place all these instruments, size them, and then go and fly using Air Manager. So let's go to the Create Edit tab here. You'll see a couple of groups, instruments and panels. Instruments opens up and you'll see a list of instruments. Now, just to be clear, instruments here is the Air Manager definition of an instrument, and that may be a simple gauge, it may be a switch, it may be multiple gauges, it may be multiple switches all combined. Essentially what Air Manager considers to be an instrument is a set of code, a set of images or graphics that are bundled together in a single directory, a single folder, to make a single Air Manager instrument. I'll close that tree down and I'll open up panels. Now these are all the standard panels that I make for 2560 by 1440. I am going to make a new one. So click on New, New Panel, Next. Okay. You don't need a lot of this info, but if you're making a whole sequence of panels for different aircraft, it's probably worth doing. So in this case, I'm going to say this is Boeing 737-300. The author is IXEG. It's version 1. I don't know why they say 100 equals 1.00. Well, you know, put in whatever you like. The aircraft is a turbofan. It's we'll go steam cockpit. Again, you don't need this, but it makes life easier later on if you've got loads and loads of aircraft. So highlight that. Aircraft model. There we go. Make Boeing aircraft model 737-300. Generic aircraft? No, it's not a generic aircraft, but let's do that. We'll just make it compatible with X-Plane. Take out the generic. There we go. Developer is IXEG, and I can't remember what the version is. I think it's 1.5 or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'll just put 1.5, and the flight simulator is X-Plane. Right, so now we can go and we can add a panel, and this is going to be I'm going to call this demo, YouTube demo. YouTube, let's make it capitals. YouTube demo. Position left, because we'll stick some captain's instruments onto it. Now the width, this is where you put in for a basic panel, put in the resolution of your monitor. In my case, it's 2560 pixels wide and 1440 pixels high. There are other resolutions available, stick in yours. I'll leave click through blank, I'll leave editable clicked. We'll have a solid black color as the background. Won't go for an image at the moment. I think that's pretty much it. I'm not going to add a description. So now we're ready to start adding instruments. We'll click on Instrument Add, and we'll get a list of all the instruments that are available to us to put into this panel. And you can filter them. So if I want just IXEG instruments, click on that. If I want just captain side instruments, just add more text in, and it filters it down to what you want. Right, we're not going to make a full panel. Let's just start adding a couple of instruments to show you how it's done. We will start with the ASI. Highlight the instrument you want, click on add, and it will appear now in the list of instruments. If you don't like it, you can either just click remove or right click with your mouse and hit remove, and that'll take it out. Next point is, where is this instrument going to be displayed on your panel, and how big is it going to be? So at the moment, if I just go add, I'm going to go back to the main menu, and in fact this is slightly confusing because I think the panel that I just made is this one here. Now if I click on info, it'll bring up the stuff, and there it is. So I'm actually going to just call this panel here at the top YouTube demo. Click on OK. There it is. Now renamed. It's easier to find. I don't quite understand why Air Manager's gone with all this kind of such a extensive tree of layers to naming panels. There's probably good reason to it, but I haven't got it. Now, if I run that panel, there we go. You'll see that that instrument is placed at 0 pixels from the left, 0 pixels from the top, and it's 600 pixels wide and 600 pixels high. So stop, go back to edit that panel by clicking on the info button here, open up the tree, select that. Now if I want to put that in a more representative position, I can move it so it's 500 pixels from the left, that it's 700 pixels from the top, and I'll make it a bit smaller so that everything fits. I'll make it 500 pixels by 500 pixels. Hit OK. Now run. There it is. It's moved. In fact, I've moved it down too far. I'll move it halfway back up again. Just go info. There we go. Captain ASI, and the top 300, 350. Now, let's say I want to add another instrument. I've got to be in this part of the tree. If I go here, you can't add. If I go into the panel header name itself or anywhere within that, click on, let's add a altimeter. So just click on that. That gives me all the options for altimeters. And IXCG Captain altimeter, let's go that one there. We'll add that in there. It's now on the list. Let's say we want to make that 1200 or 1500 from the left, and we'll make it level, top level with the Captain's ASI, so the top will be 350, and we'll keep it at 500 by 500. Click OK, that's added. Run the panel. There we go. We've now got an altimeter in there as well. So you can just keep going on for as long as you like. Let's say I want to make the altimeter smaller by comparison to the ASI. Click on info. That opens up the panel information box. Open up the tree. I can now add more instruments, or click on the altimeter, and let's say I want to make it 400 pixels by 400 pixels, keeping the aspect ratio of the instrument the same. Click on OK, click on run. There we go. You can see now the instrument is smaller. In essence, that is how you can build a simple panel. If I now just added the horizon, the HSI, a VSI, you've actually then got enough instruments to physically go and fly the IXCG from the Captain's side. Just one point to note here, if I go back, open up the info page, I'm going to add an RMI. Here we go. And you can see here in my naming of the instrument, it's Captain/FO RMI plus DMI, and that RMI plus DME, and that implies that this is both a Captain and an FO instrument. So if I highlight that, and where am I going to put that? I'm going to put that 500 to the left, so it's just aligned with the left of the ASI, and the ASI is 500, so 850, we'll make that the top 870. We'll leave it the same width and height. Okay. It's off the bottom of the screen there slightly. So let's just tweak the size. So 605 by 743. I'll take 20% off, which is going to be 120 pixels off the width. So that's going to come down to 4485. And that's going to be 148 off. So that's going to be 600. That's going to be 595. 595. So let's just do that, and there we go. So now my RMI fits on the screen. It's roughly proportioned and in the right place. Now, let me show you this. If I go back to instruments, and this is the one thing for you to check, and I go to RMI, and there's the Captain FO RMI DME, you'll see here when I open up the instrument that in the Properties tab down here, down in the bottom right, it says Captain or First Officer, and I can select Captain or First Officer. And it's important that you have the right one selected. So what I would suggest you then do is when you go back into your panel, and you can see here, I've always put the user property for Captain and First Officer. See in the script window here, you'll see prop CPT FO user prop add Captain or First Officer. So if you highlight that, Captain or First Officer, go to C, Control C, which is copy, go back to my panels, select my demo, open that up, go back to the RMI DME, and now I want to add a user property. So I go add, just paste in Control V, Captain or First Officer, and if I make that Captain, whoops, make sure you get the caps and the caps or uppercase or lowercase correct. Click on OK, and it's now told the panel that it's to use that instrument as a Captain side instrument. So when you're adding instruments, just go into here. Most of them aren't, but I have. You'll see here Captain FO. Take the slip ball for example. That tells it whether it's the Captain side or the First Officer side. Now, to be honest, with the slip ball, the ball itself acts the same whether it's the Captain side or the First Officer side. Where it comes into play is with lighting on this occasion. So whether the instrument reacts to Captain light setting or First Officer light setting. I'll just add a VSI as well. Let's add a VSI. Captain FO VSI. It's the same. It's exactly the same. Captain or First Officer. So let's just close that up. We'll go into YouTube demo info. We'll go into this part of the tree, add an instrument. Let's type in VSI. There's only one there, and we'll put that under the altimeter. So 1500 to the left. The altimeter is 400, so the top's 750 and add 30 on, so 780 is going to be where the top's going to be. 780. And we'll make it the same size, so 400 by 400. And we will add in the user property, add Captain. There we go. Okay, run. There it is. That's how simple it is to just basically add instrumentation to your panel. If I stop that, go back into info, click here, let's say I want a bright red background. There you go, there's a bright red background. I think that would do your eyes in after a couple of minutes, but there we go. So we'll just put it back to a black one. Or you can add a panel image, but I won't talk about that right now. You can add an image in the background and for example, display what looks like the panel itself for the captain's side. There we go, we're back to normal. Now the one thing with this beta that'll probably come into full versions is that it's absolutely fine with a simple panel like this to just run it from this section, from the create and edit section. It probably works okay. Yes, it works okay. Everything seems to work. But when you get to more complex panels, that's not the case, and you'll find that certain elements of the panel don't work. So my advice is go into the home page, or the home tab here rather. Go to Panel Plus. I will type in the name of my panel, YouTube Demo. Click on it. Double click. I want it on display 1, which is 2560 by 1440. In my case, if your monitor rather was a different resolution, then that would show the different resolution, and that should match what you set when you initially sized the panel. Click on here, add. It's now in the list. Now if I highlight it and click on the light bulb, up comes that panel in run mode, and now everything will work, whether you've got scripts behind it or not. It'll all work. So that's my advice, is load your panel up in the home page and run it from the home page. And every time you edit a panel by adding an instrument or by deleting one or by changing a property or by changing the script, then just remove the panel from that list in the home page and add it back in as a new panel. And that way the changes that you have instituted will work. Hopefully that was nice and simple. Hopefully that's given you enough info to go out and just start building panels. You can do whatever you like. If you want a panel that includes an RMI and includes the external lights panel from the overhead on the same screen, you can do it. It's your cockpit. You make it work the way you want it to work. I have tried with my panels to represent the original aircraft as best I can within certain limitations. You don't have to. Please go ahead, try it, have fun. You can't really break AirManager by doing this. If something doesn't work, then AirManager will either tell you or it'll shut down, but you haven't broken anything, and it won't break X-Plane. So just go ahead, try, build a basic panel, build a captain's panel, build a first officer's panel. Just give it a go, give it a try. In the next video, I'll start adding scripting in, and I'll show you how you can use that to customize your panel, or to change instruments, or to change options, so you can have, for example, either a VSI gauge or a TCAS gauge. And then after that, we'll go on to panel scripting, where we start to be able to move those instruments around on the screen, scroll them, or use buttons to change their positions. But I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been interesting. Give it a go. It's great fun. And as I said earlier, doing this and building a custom panel yourself will allow you to match your AirManager displays to your home monitors and cockpit setup. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you in the next one.